Lancia Esagamma 718. In 1965 ADUC returned to Lancia buses, ordering various small series of a group characterized by the new Esagamma 718 mechanics, conceived as a competitor to Fiat production and which, at the moment, appears very modern, almost futuristic. The various groups often have very different characteristics both from a mechanical point of view and from the bodywork. For the latter, the buses follow the now usual arrangement of the doors, of which the front one can have 2 or 4 doors, with differences in the various bodywork pistoliesi and portesi. All these buses are registered with odd and even numbers. A small series of 9 rolling stock with bodywork from Portesi entered service in 1965, numbering 101, 109, and to assign these numbers the ADUC proceeds to a half revolution. The 21 cars still in service of the first series of Lancia Esagamma 1951, 301, 383, are renumbered from 379 to 399, freeing up the first numbers of the 100, which were assigned to the remaining Lancia Esagamma of the 1953 group, 101, 159, the numbers of which can thus be assigned to the new cars. In this first group we find the horizontal Lancia 718.101 engine, placed in the center of the chassis, with 6 cylinders of 10,521 cm3, supercharged with an exhaust gas-driven turbocharger, developing 237 bhp at 2,200 revolutions per minute. The transmission is fully automatic with a non-manufactured gearbox type SRM model DRS 0.9 with continuous speed variation, which however is not actually an automatic gearbox of the type installed on the Fiat 410 and Alfa 1000, since it does not provide for engagement or disengagement of the clutch. Here the driver only has the possibility of choosing forward or reverse gear, and the next time the car is started, the change in the ratio is continuous regardless of the engine speed, until the definitive engagement of the engaged gear direct or reverse, with no possibility of control. Other series identical to the first come into service as mechanics. In this group we find a converter multiplier assembly independent of the engine starting cycle. When the car is started and therefore when the engine speed increases, the multiplier proceeds until the gear is engaged in direct drive, even if the speed remains within the limits imposed, for example, by traffic. As a logical consequence, the car could proceed at walking pace even with the gearbox set up for maximum speed, with what wear and tear on the mechanical parts it is easy to imagine. These buses therefore prove to be poor in operation, suffer from serious cooling problems in the summer months, are noisy and give rise to polluting emissions higher than those of any other vehicle of the time. In 1967 a series of 5 cars, 168-172, entered service with Portesi bodywork identical to that of the group 101-109 but with various differences in the mechanical part. In place of the supercharged 718 engine we find the 10,521 cm3 6-cylinder Lancia 716.000 engine, which develops 187 horsepower, not supercharged but equipped with a semi-automatic transmission completely similar to the one used on the Fiat 410, with remote control for gearbox and door lock and emergency gear, which is not as efficient in these cars, giving rise to a noisy gear characterized by vibrations at the limit of tolerability. The engine clutch gearbox assembly is here an imitation of the system used on Fiat vehicles. The transmission is in fact mechanical, semi-automatic and servo-assisted, made up of a Breda Sinclair-built hydraulic joint, a Fishtail and Sachs patented friction clutch, a gearbox and a reduction unit differential designed in-house by Lancia. The gearbox has 4 forward and reverse speeds, but the dry single-plate clutch is electro-pneumatic actuated by means of a switch mounted on the upper knob of the gear lever mounted on the floor of the driver's seat. Despite the various automatisms, the bus basically looks like a car equipped with a normal 4-speed mechanical gearbox without reducer, with electro-pneumatic control of the clutch. The pneumatic system of these cars combines the compressor with 2 independent main tanks, one for the services, the brakes and the front suspensions, the other for the gearbox clutch, the brakes and the rear suspensions. When driving cars at walking pace, with continuous start-up and start-up maneuvers in traffic, the compressor is unable to keep the air pressure constant, with the result that engaging the clutch proves to be problematic and the actuation of the gearbox gives rise to such and many scratches as to give these cars the nickname Scratchy. The three groups of cars that enter service successively follow one or the other of the two mechanical schemes described. For the next two series, the 173-240 of 1968-69 and the 241-275 of 1970, there is a return to the automatic transmission while with the latest supply, of this unfortunate group, the 276-301 of 1972, we have again, inexplicably, the inefficient system of the semi-automatic transmission. For all 718s, the position of the driver's seat is paracentral, moved 350 mm to the left of the car's axis. Here too the latest cars adopt large windows as in the case of the Fiat 410.